What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Midwest Outdoors Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jim O'Neill, and we are coming to you thanks to Fish Daddy, the title sponsor of this podcast. What is that? That is the micro spoon. You guys see that LED blinking light? That is what made these baits famous and attracts fish from all around. I'm getting ready to head up on a trip to Lake of the Woods, Riverbend Resort, and there's no bait that works better at Lake of the Woods than the Fish Daddy. Whether it's the Dirty Bomb or the micro spoon, if you've got flash and light down there, you've got a chance to not only catch a big one, but odds are you're gonna outfish the rest of the guys in your house if they're not using a Fish Daddy up there. And that goes a long ways with all the body of water and the watershed up there. If you're ever fishing the Rainy River, if you're ever fishing Red Lake and that watershed, all the tannic water. You go over to the St. Louis River in Duluth, Lake Winnebago in Wisconsin, the St. Croix River, the Wisconsin River, Lake Wisconsin. Stained water, tannic water. This light reigns supreme. They can see it. It blinks through all of that stuff in the water. All those particles, all those tannins, all the dirt. That light shines through. So on a day where you know fish eat, but you can't get them to eat, maybe it's just because they can't see your bait. So drop a Fish Daddy on them and light them up. And guys, huge shout out again to Fish Daddy for making this show possible. Again, it's our end of the year, so it's awesome to reflect on that. Thanks to anyone that came out and saw us at the shows. I was in the Fish Daddy booth for a few of the shows in Wisconsin and Minnesota, so thanks for anyone who stopped by. And guys, if you're watching here right now, you didn't stop by the shows, you always want to get your hands on a Dirty Bomb or a micro spoon or some of the biodegradable plastics, MWO 10. That's all you need. That's right. MWO 10 on fishdaddy.outdoors.com for your 10% off. At least handles that tax and some of the shipping. You know, it helps you out. Anyways, I'm sitting here and looking at some of my other Fish Daddy baits, and let me tell you, we'll keep with ice fishing for a second. Besides the Dirty Bomb and the micro spoon, by the way, the micro spoon also caught me a placing top 100 fish when I competed at Battle of Bago this past year, and can't wait to do it again this upcoming February. That was a really cool experience. I got to go and compete with one of our customers, Dumper Dan, and our own Dennis Lapel. So that was fun, and to be the first time ever on Bago, not knowing really what I was doing, I just got away from the pack and kind of went on foot, was drilling holes, had my Vex, didn't even have my live scope, and marked a few fish and caught about 80% of the fish I marked. And again, that was on the micro spoon, the flashing one I just showed you guys. And in gold, let me show you guys this, rummy nose red. You got that red nose, gold body. I think that's the rummy nose perch. Awesome bait right there with the red flashing light. But I love pink flashing light and I love the green as well. And if you fish any super clear water, guys, really deep clear water, blues, great for that. Gold, great for the sand bottoms. But back to ice fishing. So here we got my two top baits from this past ice fishing year. And I've already been using them this year and they've been working great. That is the crappie bug. That's a tungsten by Fish Daddy. It's got some hair on it there. And that's the Spyro tail. That is arguably my favorite bait that Fish Daddy makes. And biodegradable silicone packed with amino acid. It's leaching that into the water the whole time. And just the way that thing dances, I wish you guys could see it in water. It moves so great, it's unbelievable. Pretty good presentation, pretty good size too, but finesse once the fish gets up to it. Caught a lot of crappie and caught a lot of walleye actually on this in the past year. Now, as for some smaller fish, and of course we did catch some crappie on this, caught so many bluegill, a good amount of perch. And that is this little guy. So this is the bowler tail. Again, on another Fish Daddy tungsten. That's the glitter pink. Let's see if you guys can see that. Hold that there, okay. Little bowler tail. Really finesse, guys, really finesse. And just an awesome bait. gets bit. And we have these bowler tails in white too, if you want to make it really look like a spike or a waxworm. Awesome imitation right there. And this works all year. In fact, I was just filming a TV show with Bro. If you guys saw it, just aired last week and it's on YouTube right now. So when you're done with this, go check out our videos and look into that. But we were on a lake with freshwater shrimp, and I'll tell you what, if that's not an unbelievable imitator of a freshwater shrimp, I don't know what is. And although it was a super tough bite, we managed to get quite a few good ones, including a 14.25-inch crappie right on that thing. So awesome, got it done. And besides that, we do use a few other baits that aren't Fish Daddy, but we're very thankful for Fish Daddy and very thankful for all that he does. But obviously, some days, fish are looking for something a little different. So we'll start where I wanted to review the year, and that is with my trip that I went up to Presque Isle and stayed at Sunrise Resort with my buddy Kurt Checky and their other guide who, let me tell you, I never hardly get to fish that much with, but I always have a great time with my buddy Reed, so I wanted to give Reed a shout out here. But as for fishing, Kurt Checky and I went out and we did a little lake hopping up there. When Presque Isle is up on the border of the UP of Michigan, but it's in Wisconsin, it's in northern Wisconsin, and there's so much water up there. It's really spectacular, and you have an opportunity to catch almost anything that swims in fresh water up there. They've got trout, they've got big musky and pike, they've got walleye, and tons of big panfish. But this trip, I was after one thing and one thing only, and that was some big crappie. It's one of my favorite things to catch through the ice, and we got it done. We caught some big fish, a couple over 14. Didn't quite hit 15, but a lot over 13, and in fact, last month's issue of the Midwest Outdoors magazine featured one of those crappie that we caught that day. And yes, it was a little posed, but this day was cool because we caught all of our fish using one thing. At least I did. All I had was a whole pure fishing setup that day. We were using the brand new Fenwick Elite Class rods. We were using the new Fluger setups. And we had Berkeley line and the new micro power switch. This is the smallest size of power switch from Berkeley. And if you guys see that bait, I mean, goodness gracious, is that an unbelievable fathead minnow, crappie minnow imitation? Show that to the camera a little closer, guys. It works so well. It has such enough movement in that tail, but it's so subtle, even fish that are turned off will eat that. And boy, did I have one of the best days on artificial with that. It looks so real, plus it has that Berkeley power bait scent in it. And the fish were just hammering it, and I had so much fun that day. We caught tons, and any day out with Curtis is fun. You know, if you guys are ever out in that area, if you're looking for a place to stay, check out Sunrise Resort in Presque Isle, right on Lake Presque Isle. And Curtis or Reed or Scott will put you guys on the fish and help you out. Now, from there, because we were a little light on ice fishing content from this past year because of the unstable weather here in the lower part of the Midwest, we stayed up north and we traveled up to Lake Gogebic, a lake that I've always wanted to get out on. It has become famous, really thanks to one person. That person is Justin Sofa, a guide out on Lake Gogebic who I got to sit down with for the day, and we got to fish. And let me tell you, I told him I was gonna sit there and catch these fish on a dirty bomb. I did not do that. Then I told him I was gonna catch them on tungsten and biosilicone baits. I did not do that. Then I said, I'm just gonna jig a minnow and catch them. He said, you probably won't do that. Well, we got one, but I think it was about 7 inches. The fish, especially these perch on Lake Gogebic, are very different, and they even have their own unique name. That's right. I've always called big fish eggs wagons, but they call these the teeter pigs, which I loved the name right off the bat. But then when I found out why they call them that, physically because they get so plump that when you place them on the ice, if they're fat enough, they qualify as a teeter pig because they just rock back and forth on their belly, but they can't fall over because of how fat they are, and it supports their body. And I know I had to get one of these. If you guys have watched the shows in the past, I've always been obsessed with perch. Me and my buddy Mitch and Zach, we've been chasing them for years. Started with going out with my dad on Navy Pier before the days of a boat and catching perch, but I've always loved them. We had summer houses, my family, in Lake Geneva and in Michigan City, Indiana, respectively. Both had good perch fishing. Lake Geneva, yes, they ran on the smaller size, but you catch a lot of numbers. And Michigan City, once those perch came in from the clay flats, it could be game on. Fishing in front of Mount Baldy was one of my first memories in the first boat we ever owned. It was an 18-foot low, and man, young Jimmy O'Neill going out on Lake Michigan with that thing to chase perch was quite interesting, especially when I ran into a school of catfish one day out there. That was unexpected. But back to the present time. So we were on Lake Gogebic, and there was a very specific way to catch these fish. Automatic fishermen. I know you guys have seen me talk about them before. They are a hook setting device, right? A device that your rod goes into, and you put your rod in there, and we had a live bait called a wiggler. It's a type of nymph larvae of some sort. And it gets in the jaw jacker or automatic fisherman. I use autos. And you put the rod in, and the line is set taut, and your bait's down there. And all we were using was a little tiny tungsten jig head, really light line, like 4-pound test, 3-pound test, and then a little wiggler, not even a minnow. You needed a little wiggler, and that is just something that is very common to find up in the mud up there, and that's where those perch are. Those perch, especially the big ones, are in those mud flats, and they stay pretty close to the bottom and just scavenge for those giant teeter pigs, aka the giant yellow perch. And that's how we caught almost all of them, was on set lines that set the hook themselves, and hook those fish. And you get there and you battle them up, but when a perch is pulling drag, you got a pretty good fish. And as a perch hunter, I just can't thank Justin enough for getting me out there. I know he didn't have to, and I know he's super busy, by the way, guys. So if it's something you want to do, if you're looking at this footage right now and saying, oh my gosh, I need to catch one of those, well, hey, why don't you? Give Justin a call, Justin's Sofa, and he'll put you on some Lake Gogebic giants. So just like that, the ice fishing season came to a close. And it's bittersweet every year. I'm always ready for open water to come. And again, the kind of strange weather continued. And for me, the springtime isn't super busy here at Midwest Outdoors for me in the field. So I get to do a lot of my own fishing at that time in between the sport shows and once the sport shows end. And my pond fishing that I normally do, and I normally catch the biggest fish in the early spring, I just didn't have as much luck. And whether it's wrong place, wrong time, or some of these bodies of water I fish because they're residential ponds and lakes, maybe they're overfishing's happening. I know we're not as stocking as many fish in a lot of these bodies of water as once were. So there's a few things that play into that, but needless to say, I just didn't have a great bass year. So that was a little upsetting, and but it started a multi-species year for me. I got more locked in on fishing for other species than I ever have before. After all, my background is in bass fishing, and what I truly loved was always bass fishing, and it was hard to pull me away from that. But once I started doing other things, I couldn't believe how much fun I was having. Fishing the Kankakee and the Fox River for walleye in the spring, I did a little bit of that. Then I went up to Milwaukee and fished some of the trout open water, not just through the ice, which was an awesome time. But let me tell you, through the ice is a great time. That had to have been, I think, one of my favorite memories this year was went out with my buddy Brad, and we went out with Captain Louis Dazzo, one of my best friends. And to have multiple good friends on the ice is always a recipe for a great time. And we smacked them. Let me tell you, we caught quite a few trout that day. But what was the best is having my buddy Brad out there, who's no dig on him, has fished around Chicagoland is most of his life, so he doesn't have tons of big fish besides some awesome salmon from the lakefront. But an automatic fisherman went off. He was the first one to grab it, and collectively, all of us, including Seth behind the camera, I think we all thought that Brad could have had the state record on there. I mean, this fish fought for so long, and it had such good drag pulls. I mean, I truly thought we were dealing with an absolute monster. Well, 50 minutes passed, and we finally landed the fish. I think looking back on it, we could have tightened the drag a little bit, but we thought this was a giant and no one wanted to lose it, especially Brad, who was fighting it. It was an above average size steelhead. Beautiful spawning color fish, but nowhere close to a record. But what happened was we were just fishing with a tiny little hook, little salmon bag hook, and we had spawn underneath the bobber on the automatic fisherman. And those autos, you can set them however you want, as sensitive or as tough as you want. And Louis got them dialed perfectly, so even the lightest trout bite gets those fish hooked. Well, we found out it takes not only a bite, but maybe if a fish swims through your line, that pressure could set it off. And I think that's what happened. It was hooked right on the dorsal fin, and it looked like the fish swam by, triggered it, and the hook just went right into its fin. And that's, anytime you snag a fish, it can result into a much longer fight than you anticipated. And we were all freezing. We were all tired. Backs were hurting, arms were hurting for the fishermen, and but we landed it. It was a great moment, and yeah, I think that had to have been probably my best memory of the year. However, there were so many more memories to have that year. About a week after, or not even a week after, the day after I left doing the trout fishing, I went straight up to Door County because I was told that the walleye bite was on fire and that the bass bite could turn on any day. So I went up there and met up with my buddy Alec Nickel of Die Hard Angling, and let me tell you, we were out for only about a half a day. It was me, him, and his girlfriend, and we had to have caught 20 walleye plus a bonus big pike, and I got my PB walleye in length, 27 3/4 inches. So we keep going up. And one of these days we're gonna crack a 30, I'm telling you guys, maybe even bigger. But I beat my PB twice that day. So yeah, we're still waiting for the 29 or 30s, but we keep getting bigger. So thanks, Alex, for getting me out, and I can't wait to get out with you again this year. Maybe we'll do some ice fishing. Alec guides the Green Bay, Door County area, and I've been on the ice with him for whitefish, for perch, for walleye, plus open water. He does walleye, salmon, bass. So you name it, you do it. You do it, and he gets you on the fish. It's always a good time. But when I went home, I was still just itching for some more. I was itching for some more Green Bay gold. So that's exactly what we did. The next weekend, we got up there and we jumped in the boat with Brett Alexander and one of his helpers. And let me tell you, again, we had a day that you won't forget. Were PBs broken? No, but I caught 3 walleye over 25, 26 inches, all super fat, and they were post-spawn. I could only imagine the size of these fish if they were pre-spawn. And it was unique because I was catching these walleye different ways for 3 weeks in a row up there. My first week I was fishing on shore, my second week I went out with Alec, and my third week I went out with Brett Alexander. And we fished with different baits every time. And the bite slowly became different every time. You know, the first time I was up there from shore, the fish were actively spawning. They're pretty aggressive, hitting bigger baits. Second time I was with Alec, they were still crushing baits, but you had to throw some different baits. And by week 3, when I was up there with Brett, we were just throwing hair jigs. That's about all we can get them to bite, and they were biting the stinger. So a stinger hook, a little treble hook that comes off the main bait a few inches, and the hook actually extends past where the hair ends. And let me tell you, almost every fish was caught on that. So they were still biting, could still catch some amazing fish, but if you weren't doing what you needed to do and doing it right, you just weren't catching them. So that is the power of being able to fish with so many guides. You know, I give them all the credit. Yes, I know how to catch these fish, but I am always learning from these guides. They are putting us on what should be pretty active fish, a hot bite. You know, when I'm traveling around all over from Minnesota to Wisconsin to Michigan to Kentucky, it's just impossible really to get on a solid bite when you arrive and only have 1 or 2 days to get it done. So although I love to fish by myself and certainly don't need a guide most of the time, let me tell you, if you're doing a new type of bite, a new species, or you're at a new body of water or a new location on a body of water, a guide never hurts. Listen, that is their job. Their job is to go and learn those waters and learn how to catch them. Now, not every guide does their job, so make sure you're booking the right one. But I went out with quite a few, so I think you guys could definitely find one at least that will get you out there for sure.
Midwest Outdoors Magazine helps you enjoy the outdoors, giving you the best information on where to go, what to use, and how to use it. With fishing maps marked by the pros, nature notes, in-depth interviews, and much, much more. Your subscription gets you 10 big issues of the best in fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors. Plus, Midwest Outdoors Digital Edition gives you dozens of extra articles. Sign up now at MWOMag.com. That's MWOMag.com.
Now, speaking of great guides, back to Brett real quick. So after we got done crushing big walleye in Door County, we took a bit of a drive into the Sturgeon Bay shipping canal, and it's an area that has so many fish in it, and it has every fish in it. I was even fishing off the pier the next day, waiting for a phone call, and I was just throwing a dirty bomb. I was throwing the dirty bomb jigging spoon, 1 ounce, and I caught 2 pike between 30 and 32 inches just right off the main boat dock. So you don't need a boat, you don't need tons of tackle, you just need a couple things and get your line wet, because that is such a healthy area. And when we were in there after we were walleye fishing, it was kind of crazy because 2 things happened. 1, the fishing shut off completely. We had a storm come in. The walleye stopped biting. We went in, had lunch, and I thought our day was going to be over. But luckily, the weather pushed out and some sun actually came through, and we went back out and changed our game plan after that. One of the first things that happened is we heard Mark Zona, who was out there, hooting and hollering. And we thought he must have caught a giant. You know, they were filming a show and we were filming our show. We were separated by a couple hundred yards. And later on, I got to talk to Mark because him and I opened up the stage for him at the Milwaukee show, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel show, the sports show. And we were talking about how we were out on the water that same day. He swears he saw what either was one of or the biggest smallmouth that he has ever seen in his life with his own eyes, not on the scope, but with his eyes, anywhere from an 8 to 10 pounder. So insane to think about, you know, but that means we were doing it all right. We were there at the right time. We were trying the same stuff, and they had a rough day too until a certain point where the bite kind of turned on, and our bite turned on at the same time, and we were throwing little Kitex and little Strike King minnows, and these smallies were blasting it. I caught a 512, one of the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught, and just a super fun day because once we figured it out, whether it was with a jerkbait or a little paddle tail, the smallies crushed it. So we truly had an unbelievable walleye morning and then an awesome smallmouth afternoon. So that made that trip just so great. Now, before we end the spring fishing stories, because I got one more from you from the spring, I want to bring in one of our new sponsors. That's right, we have a big boy that's joining us. And who's that name? You might have heard of it before. Rapala, that's right. And it is Rapala, not Rapala. I've been over this, all right? I've been over this with the guys at the HQ, and it is Rapala, but if you want to keep calling it Rapala, be my guest. But yes, Rapala is on board, so huge shout out to them. We know they make tons of things, including not only just their baits though, their VMC hook line, the Crush City soft bait line now, and 13 Fishing is in the Rapala family. But what we're focusing today is the Rapala tools. That's right. I use Rapala tools all the time while on the water, whether it's pliers and a knife. I just used this exact knife, well, not exactly this one, but I just used one of these Rapala knives to fillet 13 fish the other day because I was on the road and didn't have my Bubba, and guess what? That thing ripped right through them, didn't have to sharpen it once. Walleye, crappie, bluegill went through them and all. It was great. Toolkits, guys, they have awesome toolkits, whether they've got wire cutters, if you're a musky fisherman, awesome to have, different needle nose, scissors, all sorts of different toolkits to look at. A scale, very important tool, not only for a tournament angler, but you got to know what your PB is. You got to know if you beat your buddy that weekend. So a scale is a great thing. Plus, everyone hates being called out online for embellishing the size of your fish. You don't have to do it now. The Rapala scale will tell you exactly how much your fish weighs. But I think out of all the stuff, and it might be one of the cheapest things on the website, the precision line cutters. Those are absolutely my favorite tool to use from Rapala. I have 2 or 3 pairs. I keep one in the boat. I keep one in my ice fishing box. I keep one in my truck. They cut everything from fabric to leader line to braid. They're just great cutters. They're super, as it's in the word, precision. It's super sharp on the cut. I can cut my tag line with almost no line left on it, and it holds true, holds strong, and they fit in the hand well. They're non-slip. Just a great little tool there. But yeah, guys, that is just a little introduction to Rapala for joining us, and we'll be showcasing and talking about some of the other stuff they have on their website as well. So check it out, rapala.com, guys, and go get yourself some stuff today. After we got done with Green Bay and the trout fishing, all that was over, I needed more of those salmonoids, you know. The drag scream that we saw that Brad had in his fight, well, I needed more of that. And although they're not as big, I knew we had a chance to catch some trout when me and Louie went back out on the water, this time in the boat, and we did some coho fishing. But let me tell you, this was some eventful coho fishing. We caught a king salmon, a spring king salmon, and that thing was hard fighting as could be. We caught some brown trout, which add a little flair to it, a little bigger fish than the coho for sure, and we caught a few of them. But the coho were just on fire. I think we caught probably 50 of them that day. We were out there to film some content for Yellowbird planter boards. So the goal was to go out and troll some cranks, maybe some flies, and see if we couldn't get a limit of coho. Well, we got our limit just fine, and we kept it short for a while so we could keep fishing, kind of weeded through some of them. But the bite got so insane that at one point we just started throwing on different baits to see if we could catch a fish on it. And I think I caught a fish on just about everything I threw. We caught some on spoons. We caught some on the micro spoon. We caught some on the spiked J shad from Fish Daddy. We caught some on a blade bait, an inline spinner, I think. I mean, you name it, and we caught them. In fact, there was this one catch where I threw out my swim bait, and I was just buzzing it right on the top of the water. You could see the bait all the way in, and two coho, like they're tunas, come in, and one grabs it, and I'm fighting it. I think I lost that fish, but I got so many bites from the bait just subsurface. I mean, it was truly incredible, and a lot has had to do with that because we were by a discharge. So we had current blowing out, right? And anytime you have that current blowing out, you got particles in the water, you've got little plankton, you got little food going around, the bait fish come in, the bait fish are scattered throughout the whole water column, and then you get the predator fish, and those predators were the trout and salmon, and they were shooting through them. And we got to be the benefit of that. And it was just really cool. And again, Louie's a great friend, so it's awesome to have moments like that with your friend. One thing I'll never forget about that day, and we were warned, so we came prepared, that there was a chance in front of, it was just after winter, right? And in winter, you get the biggest waves on the Great Lakes, and you get ice sheets that move. So it's not uncommon for the shoreline to change up a little bit. And what happened is there was a sandbar a little bit in front of the marina. And winter did its thing and pushed that sandbar all the way up until the mouth of the marina. So the water got as shallow as 9 inches. Unfortunately, 3 of us in a loaded boat, loaded with gas, just ain't gonna get that. So Seth and I, yes, I have to say it because I want to say thank you to Seth for always helping out and making sure that we get not only the shoot done, but that we catch fish, which I guess we have to do for the shoot done, but the biggest team player, and I always appreciate that. We had to get out of the boat as Louie navigated the boat, and we pushed it over the sandbar. And we were in waders because this was March and the water was freezing. So we had to get in our waders, get in the water to not only get our boat out of the marina, but then back in the marina to get it back on the trailer later that day. And those are just experiences you do not forget, let me tell you. Summer was full of one thing really and one thing only, and that was the chase for the big cats. I set up at rivers, the Kankakee, the Fox, the Des Plaines. I went all the way to Rend Lake, Illinois. I went to Wheeler on the Tennessee River chain to chase a big one. But I caught fish that I would have never guessed where I caught them. You know what I'm saying? I caught some of the biggest fish in some small water. And one instance was just a creek right by my house, the town over. I live in Orland Park. So if you want to go to Google Maps, do your best. But I caught a couple 2 to 4 pound channel cats out of a stream that's no more than 10 feet wide and no more than 2 feet deep. And it was a creek I always wanted to explore more. I remembered as a kid seeing some fish in there. So that was a super rewarding thing to do. Of course, I fished some neighborhood ponds, some private, some public, and caught some nice channels out of those. My trip out late summer to the Red River, the Red River of the North. It's the river that divides the Dakotas and Minnesota. And although it's known for its giant walleye, it is truly known for its big, world-class channel catfish. And again, a name that's synonymous to that catfishing over there is Brad Durick. And long time Ugly Stick and Pure Fishing Pro. And we got to go out with him, and we got in his river boat, unlike a lot of other boats I ever get to fish in. Nice little canopy, got to sit down for the day. And I was joined with by one of my best friends, Carly Winkleman. That is right, Carly of the Winkleman family. And we just had such a blast. I don't think she caught one of her PBs because that girl has gotten to fish all over the world and has caught so many impressive fish. but I know she caught some of the biggest ones she's ever caught. And I beat my PB again twice. So I think 17 or 18 pounds is what my biggest one ended up being. Regardless, smashed my 14.1 PB channel cat that I had previous to that. They were dogs. Those were such hard fighting fish. I mean, they smacked that rod, and it was just a really fun day out on the river. The weather was perfect. We saw some baby deer. We saw some bald eagles, and the weather was just perfect, like I said. And I couldn't have drawn up a better shoot than that one. The fish just slowly throughout the day got bigger and bigger and bigger. Every time there was a long pause between bites, a big one would hit it and get us all rejuvenated again. So that was a really special thing to do, no doubt. So I got out on a tributary that connects the St. Joe's River in Michigan with John of Get Bent Guide Service, and it was pure chaos. We got out there, and he told me we needed to focus on catching some bluegill first, so we had some live bait to use to catch these big cats. So that's what we did. And then the whole time we're doing this, the smallmouth are just blasting everywhere, top water. They're just blowing up. And I didn't have a single bass rod in my hand, and it was driving me mental. And meanwhile, he was telling me that he thinks the smallmouth is probably one of the best baits for catfish, but he uses creek chubs or bluegill. You gotta use what you get from the body of water as bait. So, but I believe it. You know, what we were targeting was giant flathead catfish, and some of the biggest flatheads I've ever seen have been caught on bullheads, have been caught on channel cats, have been caught on carp and quillback up to 4 or 5 pounds. So they are a very aggressive feeder. Most catfishing that I've been used to, they like stinky, rotten, dead things, not the flathead. The flathead is more likely, I think, to hit a crankbait than it is a dead bait just laying on the bottom. So if you're fishing for flatheads, I highly recommend that you get some fresh live bait. Check your rules and regulations, because most of the time, if you're gonna fish with anything bigger than a shiner, you have to catch it in that waterway that you're in. So make sure you check those rules and regs. But again, it was PB o'clock. I think I caught my PB flathead 3 times that day, officially scaled. I have one that I caught when I was a child that still to this day I know is longer, but we never got a weight on it, so you never know what it was. I used to say it was about 45 pounds. Came out of a pond at night, and that fish was a monster. But these fish were so cool. They were so strong. The river fish are much more aggressive, I think, than pond fish. The way they took the rod, I mean, bending it in half and pumping down, super cool experience. And without further ado, I'll throw it to John, actually, because we never got to finish the whole podcast due to some technical errors, but we got a little bit of information out of him, and I didn't want it to go to waste, so let's watch that real quick.
Midwest Outdoors Magazine helps you enjoy the outdoors, giving you the best information on where to go, what to use, and how to use it. With fishing maps marked by the pros, nature notes, in-depth interviews, and much, much more. Your subscription gets you 10 big issues of the best in fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors. Plus, Midwest Outdoors Digital Edition gives you dozens of extra articles. Sign up now at MWOMag.com. That's MWOMag.com.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Hey, we are on a Lake Michigan tributary now. Normally, I'm looking for salmon or trout when I'm on a body of water like this, but I came up ran into John of Get Bent Guide Service, and these aren't trout rods, are they, John?
No trout or salmon in the rivers right now. What we are doing is targeting one of the most underrated fish that this state has to offer. We're looking for some big flatheads tonight. The bite has been pretty good, and we're gonna see if we can't find a big one.
Absolutely. Now, you know, the flathead, I've been trying to target for the last like year or two, and I've caught a few, but honestly, I've caught more in my lifetime throwing jigs, throwing crankbaits while bass fishing. You know, so they're not like your normal catfish, right? They're a little more predatorial, it seems.
Yeah, so a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to the flathead. A lot of guys picture them as like bottom feeders and they're picking up scraps and whatever else they can find on the bottom. Actually, a lot of the time they're hunting live bait. Okay. We do run a lot of cut bait. You catch them on cut bait, but it's got to be fresh. So they're highly misunderstood in the fact that most people think that they're just scavengers. Mm-hmm. They're really not. They're like the apex predator in any waterway that they swim, no matter where you find them. They're the top dog in the system. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of hard fighting fish in freshwater, you know, I think the king salmon first, but when you think of the power of the tail on a flathead, you know, I mean, besides a sturgeon, I don't think there's anything bigger in our neck of the woods or most of the country in freshwater than a flathead, right?
No, minus the sturgeon in this part of the state or this part of the country, that is the biggest fish and probably just pound for pound hardest pulling. Like, you know, not necessarily the craziest fights and breaking water, but when it comes to just raw power and strength, that's the hardest fighting fish you're probably gonna find around here.
Now, we got a few rods set out behind us. You know, I like this setup. It kind of reminds me of a crappie setup, you know, but we got some bigger gear than crappie fishing. And smallmouth splashing behind me. I can't, I'm telling you. But I grabbed a rod here because I thought we'd go over kind of what we're using out here, because I see a few things that are unique about this setup. From your swivel, you got some beads, you got it looks like a spook here, and then you come down and your knot actually is a unique looking knot too. So what do we got going on here?
Yeah, so pretty basic rig. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. This is just the way that I've done it. We fish a lot of timber around here. This kind of helps you get in and out of the wood and whatnot. So we're running really heavy braid. This is 9-strand, 80 pound. It is, to give you guys a reference, it's twice the diameter of Power Pro. Yep. From there, we got a 4-ounce weight in here. We're not dealing with any crazy fast current today. This rubber stopper is actually supposed to be up in that weight, but it's found its way out.
That's protecting your knot a little bit there on.
Yeah, so really it's supposed to sit up in the weight here. We can show you on another one, and what that does is it prevents any sharp edges of the sinkers from rubbing on your braid. You can also put these on with a snap, and then a super heavy duty swivel, just a double barrel swivel here. And then 60-pound mono, nothing fancy, just big game.
Gotcha.
This guy here, I just started playing with him. You can actually use this as a spook. I took the split rings off of it and put it on my leader. So what this does is, one, it's flotation. So this actually helps keep your live bait up off of bottom. A lot of the time what your live baits are gonna do is you'll cast them out and they get busy for you for a minute, and then what they'll do is they'll just lay right down on bottom and they stop doing what they're supposed to. So this does a couple different things for you. They're extremely buoyant, so it makes that bait float up off of bottom, and it makes them work for you. I'll even run floats on my cut baits as well, and that's the same thing. It prevents you from laying down on bottom if you're in slow current. And as you guys can probably hear on the camera with this thing, makes a lot of noise. These flatheads, oddly enough, don't fish off of sight. The way they feed is off of vibration and smell. So they have a super sensitive lateral line. All of their feeding happens just by feeling and smelling the bait, and that's why we run a combination of cut bait and live baits. Sometimes the trick is just to get them in your spread. Sometimes a good live bait will get them into the mess, and they'll end up picking up a cut bait, especially this time of year when we're kind of early in the season.
Gotcha. And just because it looks a little different, what kind of knot do you got on there?
This is a snell knot. Yep. So the same way you would run, same snell knot you fish skein and all that good stuff with, or even guys who are float fishing any kind of stuff, you can use a snell knot for all sorts of things. Yep. Running all circle hooks. This one's a unique hook. I've just been playing with this one lately here.
Little offset turn on there.
Yeah, they call it a triple threat hook is what it is. It's meant to be able to use to set the hook run it as a regular circle hook, sweep into them. You're supposed to have a lot of freedom with how you hook these. Gotcha. I'm just kind of playing around with them now. And then the rest of the hooks are straight circle hooks that we're running today. So those you don't set the hook on, you basically let the fish hook itself. So normally we run a whole variety of baits if we can get them. Today we have a pretty simple cooler, but it is a good one. For these fish, you can drop anything from carp and bullheads and channel cats, depending on your state. Check your regulations. We can fish anything we want over here as long as it's harvested legally. Today we have a cooler full of bluegill.
Absolutely.
And there's some big ones in there, so.
Yeah, you know, something we were talking about earlier is, especially when it comes to flathead fishing, and, you know, this goes, I think, for fishing in general. Don't be scared to throw a bigger bait.
Yeah, seasonally for the flatheads especially,
Sure.
They'll eat a bait that's 2/3 of their body weight. We talked about that just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
So to put that into perspective, a 40-pound fish will eat something that's, what does that break down to? I'm a fishing guy, I'm not a mathematician.
32 and a half, roughly, 32 and a half pounds.
They'll eat some giant stuff, guys, is what we're getting at. I've dropped some baits that'll stretch from the tip of my finger up to my elbow. They have no problem working them down. We're running giant hooks. This is a 10-aught here, but we'll fish all the way up to a 12-aught. You're basically just trying to get that hook exposed so when they do pick up that bait. But yeah, you can run a little bit of everything for these things. You gotta catch it in your waterway, and usually that's your best bait anyway, so.
Yeah, and you know, like you said, seasonal is important too. I know right now around here we have so many bluegill kind of starting to spawn, look for those spawning areas, and that's when bluegills get big, you know? They're full size, and those fish will stay up shallow through the night protecting their young, you know? And that's when them flatheads usually come out and start looking for food. So you have a lot of things going on. Then the carp spawn will come, and then they probably get a little more fixed on the carp.
Yeah, they'll eat. So you definitely, if you can follow those phases, it's definitely not a bad idea.
Yeah.
We've had a pretty cold spring this year. Our water temperature is about 63 degrees. So not cold for flatheads per se, but we're definitely kind of on the lower end there. They have been out and about feeding for a while. We did have water temperatures go all the way up to 70 here. So kind of once they get up and moving and start feeding, they usually don't completely shut back down. But early in the season when it's colder, we run a lot of cut bait. A lot of your bites come on cut bait, and then as the season progresses, you start getting into some more live bait bites, and that's when you can start running big live baits. Big cut baits right now are all fair game though.
A little bit about the flathead, you know, when you catch one, I see a lot of people kind of struggle with a big fish. What are some pointers you would give the people on how to land a fish, how to hold those fish, you know?
Yeah, big thing with these things is people have this idea that they're big, giant, hardy fish, and they absolutely are, but you still have to be careful on the way that you do handle them. Big mistake that I see guys make is they'll pull up these giant flatheads and they're super excited, as you should be, and they'll grab them by the mouth and they'll pick them up and they'll hang them straight up and down. And whether they're putting it on a scale or whether they're just picking it up and letting it hang, you actually don't want to do that, especially when you got those spawning females. You should try to avoid it. When they're in the water, they're obviously laying flat and they're in their water, so it's a little bit different than when you hang them. What happens is you can crush their insides. It's not good for them. So when you're holding these fish, you can wear gloves if you want to, especially if you found a couple already and your hands are all tore up. You don't need them. Try to keep the fish, like if I got a fish laying on the floor and I got clients in the boat and stuff, and things are getting a little chaotic, I'll take a bucket and I'll dump some water over them. Support their belly when you do pick them up for those pictures. That's what we were getting at with that there. When you pick them up, get a hand underneath their belly, make sure you're supporting some of that weight for them. As far as landing these things, if you're fishing from the bank, you can drag them up on the bank. They are pretty hardy, so you can just drag them up. If you want to net them, you can get yourself a big hoop on there because these things do get pretty oversized. Oh yeah. And my buddy told me the last time we were out here, we found a big one and he said it doesn't fit in the net. So I ended up having to grab a bigger hoop. But yeah, guys, as far as that, don't be afraid to run really heavy gear. They're not line shy. You know, running the difference of like 40-pound or a 20-pound leader to going up to like an 80-pound leader or a 60-pound leader, it's not gonna make a difference. You're not gonna get more bites per se running lighter gear. The big thing you run into with this is we fish a ton of wood. So you're constantly in and out of the structure, you're getting hung up. Sometimes by the time you hook these fish, you're already in the wood, and the name of the game is getting them out. So we're looking about, when I'm picking out leader line and I'm looking at my main line, we're looking about abrasion resistance. We want to make sure that stuff can rub up all in and out of that wood over and over again and still have the strength when you have a 30, 40, 20 pound fish on the boat that decides to go straight down, that it still has enough strength to take that shock and power.
Absolutely. Well, I'm gonna let you bait this up. You know, I still got my clean little hands. I still got my clean hands, and we're gonna show people what you're doing there with the bait, and then we're gonna be stealthy. Then we're gonna sit a little bit and see if we can't get bit. All right.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, there it is. This is our lucky contestant. We found a volunteer here. It's a smart one. It keeps trying to run away from me. Big thing you guys will see when you're talking about getting into flathead fishing, if you start doing research, is your hookup ratio. That is kind of the thing. That's one of the hardest things that you run into between picking your hook, all that good stuff. But a really important factor is where you put that hook. Hook placement and hookup ratio go hand in hand with each other. There's a couple things I'm worried about though when I'm hooking this bait. We are sitting in some current. This spot is kind of slow, but we will fish some faster water today. A really good place to hook your baits is towards the tail here. So you come in right behind this dorsal fin and you hook them in the back. It's a great place to hook them and you get a good hookup ratio, but your baits die really quick because they end up sitting downriver and it drowns them out. So what we're actually gonna do with this guy, especially on a live bait here, I'm gonna come in right from the bottom of the mouth and out the eye socket. All right, so as you guys can see on the bottom of this bait, hopefully there's that little V. I'm getting tore up by mosquitoes here, so bear with me. There's that little V. I'm gonna come in right off of this left side here. I'm gonna come through the left side of this V here underneath. I'm gonna go right through the corner of the mouth and out that eye socket. Now we have almost the entire size of our hook there exposed. That way when a fish does grab this bait, you don't have anything. This also reduces fouling up, which you'll see sometimes depending on where you hook them, is that hook will actually get caught up like this. So this is a super safe way to hook them. Hookup ratio is still pretty good. This keeps your hook almost all the way exposed, as you guys can see there, and it reduces your risk of following. What this also does, fishing a river right now with moving water, is it's gonna allow this bait to sit head first up into the river like this, so they're not sitting backwards and getting drowned out. So this is also gonna extend the life of our gill here. We don't have an endless cooler, so sometimes you do have to salvage the bait you got. Let's go get them down there.
When that giant hit, I could tell right away that we had a different fish on, and I was just praying the whole time that it did not get off. You know, I think that's with any species, any fish, when you get hammered and you know it's a different fish, you know the quality of fish is a higher level, it just makes me nervous, just gets me going a little bit. And I knew right away that that fish was different. And we got it in the net, and I just couldn't wait to hold it. And yeah, I did. I got in there. I wasn't. Sometimes around catfish, I'll be honest, I'm a little squirrely. I got stung as a kid once, and I never want to get stung again, especially when I'm ice fishing and they're slippery and they're cold and my hands aren't working well. I just hate touching catfish. But I went right in there for this one because I was so excited. So huge shout out to John for getting me on those fish, and I hope we can get back together this year and shoot a show together, because there's some unfinished business there for sure, and truly an unforgettable experience. So I appreciate you for getting me out. Now, as for the rest of the year, guys, we had some great times. Got to start working with a new resort, Dakota Sunset Resort, that is on the shores of the famous Devil's Lake, North Dakota. And it's an awesome place. Got to go out there 3 days in a row, banged limits of walleye in less than a half a day every day. You can catch them on worms or leeches, or you can troll plugs. You can vertical jig them. You can throw jig heads out. You know, you can do just about everything to catch them there. We were slow trolling when I was there, mostly worm harnesses, but we tried a couple different tactics, including slip bobbers, and we caught them doing just about everything. We were on the roads, we were fishing the sunken roads, and it was cool to see how healthy that lake is, including some of the big white bass I saw. Truly some of the biggest white bass I've ever seen in my life. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of the giant perch that it's famous for, but did get a glimpse of the pike that are in there. We caught one of those on accident, and it was so thick. The girth of that fish was so nice, and the shoulders on it, there is something truly special about Devil's Lake in North Dakota. And I think those freshwater shrimp have a lot to do with it, and how much bait and walleye fry are in there. It's truly incredible. The resort's brand new. The lodging is super nice, and it better be nice, because when you catch most of your fish in the first 2 hours of the day, well, you need something else to do, right, when you get off the water. So we got off, had a nice bonfire, cooked up our fish. It was an awesome time. Then we went to ICAST at the end of July, and ICAST is always one heck of a time, honestly. Huge shout out to all my friends there. Had a great time. Shout out to Ryan Ski for putting me up. He's been on the podcast also, so thanks as a guest. Huge shout out to Tyler Lubot. Not only did we do some fishing this year, but me and that boy, we saw the United States this year and listened to some good music. So, you know, when two worlds collide, that's kind of what happens. But yeah, it was the year of developing friendships, meeting new people, getting to fish with some of the best people in the Midwest, some icons. Thanks to Carly, I got to meet Babe Winkleman. I never did that before, and I got to meet him in his own home and talk with him about some of his taxidermy he had on the wall. Whether it was the enormous halibut tail that was like this big, that's all they could stuff of it, just the tail, or the chain link stringer of crappie that were all between, I don't know, 14, 15 to 17 inches. Those were just a few of the incredible things that I saw while at that house. I don't know. I know that fall came and went too fast. I know that bass fishing and salmon fishing this year was definitely harder than ever for me. And the crazy thing is, the last 2 years, that has always been my two easiest species, I'd say, to catch. At least I know the most about those species. But it was a busy year. Didn't get to get on the water as much. I know I am blessed on how much I get to fish compared to the average person. But for me, I'd say I took about half of the days. I fished half the days I had in the past few years. But just part of what you have to do when you get the job, and different obligations you have to figure out. Also, like I said, weather kind of got in the way a few times. We couldn't do everything that we wanted to do necessarily, or go everywhere we wanted to go. One place that I wanted to go was Canada. Never made it to Canada. We had a cancellation last second and things didn't happen, but hopefully 2026 is the year for Canada. In fact, this is a perfect time to introduce another new sponsor that we're going to have with us for the next few months, and that's Showalter's Fly-In Canadian Resort. That's right. If you guys are looking for an unbelievable resort, something that offers not only fishing, but also hunting. You got moose hunt and you got bear hunting. You got world-class fishing for northern pike, walleye, and lake trout. And guys, not only is it world-class because of the size, but the amount. You're gonna catch more fish than you've ever caught if you've always fished in the lower 48. When you get up to that pristine water that hasn't been touched, you get in that little float plane, and they fly you in, and you're going over the trees, seeing the wildlife, seeing the water and trees that go for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and you land on the water and pull up to your dock. You got your boats already sitting there waiting for you, your cabin up on the hill waiting for you. You're gonna have fish fries and shore lunches every day, and you're gonna make memories with your significant other, your sons, your brothers, your friends, or just have that solo trip of a lifetime that you've always wanted. So check that out, guys, at Showalter's Fly-In Outposts, and that's showwalters.com. Yes, I did have to check that, but just making sure. I also want to thank Skeeter for coming on board. Skeeter has been the official boat sponsor now for quite a few years of the Midwest Outdoors TV show, and they get a lot of our anglers from point A to point B. I know I have gotten the opportunity to film out of a few Skeeters in my day, and I absolutely love them. And right now, you can get one too and have a little incentive to maybe go and get your boat. Not only are they gonna have some great pricing at the shows coming up, but they also have the Buy, Save, Fish program right now, and that is a 3-part offer. You get to choose one of the 3 to help buying your boat a little more affordable, and that is up to $5,000 instant cash rebate and a Tackle Warehouse gift card on top of that. That's option 1. Option 2 is 3.79% APR for 72 months or 4.99 APR for 180 months. That's right. You can drag that out a while. Yes, you'll pay a little more interest, but it's about that monthly payment. Maybe it makes it more affordable, and then you can get on the water. Then you sign up for the Skeeter Incentive Program, guys, if you're a tournament angler, and boom, you can make that money back like that, especially if you fish some of the bigger tournaments and you're consistent. If you catch fish, you can be rewarded. Real quick, guys, before we end this podcast, it is time for the product review. And I got to sample a suit, not only a regular suit, an ice fishing suit that floats, that lights up, and heats you all at the same time. Let's check that out.
Midwest Outdoors Magazine helps you enjoy the outdoors, giving you the best information on where to go, what to use, and how to use it. With fishing maps marked by the pros, nature notes, in-depth interviews, and much, much more. Your subscription gets you 10 big issues of the best in fishing, hunting, and the great outdoors. Plus, Midwest Outdoors Digital Edition gives you dozens of extra articles. Sign up now at MWOMag.com. That's MWOMag.com.
Hey guys, staying comfortable on the ice and safe is the most important thing. That's why I have to tell you about this beautiful Norfin suit we're testing out today. I got the bibs and the top on, but they make boots, gloves, and hats. Love this hat that they sent me. This suit has a lot of features that not all have. First of all, it is a powered suit. It has a battery pack for both the top and the bottom. Now the top battery pack operates the LED lights up here. Not only can they help you glow a bait, but it can help you clean up and set up in low light conditions, and it has a flashing feature for safety. If you ever get stranded or just want some friends to come over and see you, they can see you flashing around. The bottoms have a coil that go through them that keep you warm. Yes, that's right. The bottom have a heated system in it, 3 different temperatures, warm, hot, and extra hot. So no matter what the conditions are in, it's great for you. Obviously, we talk about safety too. Not only staying warm is safe, but floating. God forbid it ever happens, you go through. This is a float suit, keeps you buoyant, keeps you up on top of the water, gives you more time for people to help you and save you. Besides that, very lightweight. The bottom actually have an insert in them, a lining that you could take out if you need to. Today, it's starting to get a little warm. I might have to take off that lining. But it's a beautiful suit for no matter what kind of conditions you're in. So guys, if you want to check out this suit or anything else they have to offer, check out norfinusa.com. Well, just like that, it's the end. 2025 is over, and another season of the Midwest Outdoors podcast is over. But you better believe we're coming back for a third, baby. That's right, we're gonna be back, and we're gonna be back with our new sponsors, Rapala, Showalters, and Skeeter. And don't you dare forget our title sponsor, the Fish Daddy. That's right, the original company that created biodegradable silicone and light up lures, aka the dirty bomb. Light them up and get more bites. But guys, none of this would be possible without you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. You make a dream come true every time I get to sit down and do one of these podcasts. So guys, we will get rid of all the notes, get rid of all the evidence that 2025 ever happened. And listen, come on out to the trade shows. Come see us in person. This weekend, we're gonna be at the Novi Sports Show. That's right. And that is in Novi, Michigan, right outside Detroit. So come by. I'm speaking Thursday evening, Friday evening, and Saturday morning. I'll be on the Hog Trough Thursday night. Friday, Saturday, I'll be on stage B. Look for Jim O'Neill. And we will be in a booth as well. So come out to the booth and check out Midwest Outdoors. Get your subscription to the magazine, and who knows, you might get this little face sent to your front door. How lucky could that be? Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. Again, thank you to Fish Daddy. Go to fishdaddy.outdoors.com, discount code MWO10 for 10% off, and check out some of the new products. They're always coming out with new products. In fact, now that I'm going to Detroit this weekend and it looks like the water's gonna be open and the ice isn't gonna be there, unfortunately, we're gonna head right to the St. Clair or the Detroit River. And we're gonna put the 1/2 ounce Dirty Bomb minnow on them. That's right, guys. That is a 1/2 ounce blade bait that has the Dirty Bomb technology in it and blinks light. And I can't wait to catch them. Until then, guys, tight lines. We'll see you in the next one.